Welcome everyone. I am Fedrayani and you are listening to Inner Light, a podcast dedicated to kindle a light of meaning into your life. On today's episode, we will be talking about Anima and Animus, the eternal partners from the unconscious. The anima is the personification of all feminine psychological aspects within the man's unconscious, while the animus is the personification of all male psychological aspects within the woman's unconscious. They form part of the collective unconscious as archetypes, making them particularly difficult to integrate into one's personality. Jung says the function of anima and animus is to make a connection with the depth of the psyche. So the first step one must take is acknowledgement of the anima and animus, which form the bridge to the most fundamental figure to emerge, the archetype of the self, the totality of one's personality, as Jung describes it. Man tends to overvalue the masculine aspect with his persona, playing the strong man, while the feminine aspect remains unconscious. This naturally leads to negative anima projection, as he's completely unaware of it. Man, in general, is highly focused on ego. He is highly rational and senses around the outer world in detriment to the unconscious. His curse is the imprisonment of the outer world without access to the inner world. Woman, on the other hand, is more in tune with the inner life. The anima corresponds to the maternal eros, and the animus corresponds to the paternal logos. Jung writes, just as the anima becomes through reintegration the eros of consciousness, so the animus becomes a logos. And in the same way that the anima gives relationship and relatedness to man's consciousness, so the animus gives to woman's consciousness a capacity for reflection and self-knowledge. Every man carries within him the eternal image of woman, anima. Not the image of this or that particular woman, but a definitive feminine image, his anima. Likewise, woman carries within her the eternal image of the masculine, her animus. Starting with the anima is as a rule shaped by one's mother. If a man feels that his mother had a negative influence on him, his anima will often express itself in irritable, depressed moods, uncertainty, insecurity, and touchiness. Within the soul of such a man, the negative mother anima figure will endlessly repeat this theme. The anima is the archetype of life, and when it is negative, the impulse is to dream about life instead of living life. The image of woman is the solace of all bitterness of life, and at the same time she is the great illusionist, the seductress who draws man into life with her maya. Just as a negative experience with one's mother can negatively affect one's anima, as too can an over-attachment to one's mother. The man becomes effeminate and is preyed upon by woman. He is thus unable to cope with the hardships of life. A mother complex creates a split anima. On the one hand, he worships the feminine image too much. A man lives regressively, fleeing from the cold, cruel world, seeking his childhood under the nourishment and protecting circle of the mother. This is known as the puer aeternus, or the archetype of the child god, as Jung describes it. In practical terms, the positive role of the anima as guide to the inner world occurs when a man takes seriously the feelings, moods, expectations, and fantasies sent by his anima, and when he fixes them in some form, such as writing, painting, sculpture, or musical composition. So the purpose of Jung's analytical psychology is to achieve wholeness of personality, bringing the unconscious contents into consciousness through the lifelong process of individuation and enlightenment towards the self. When one is possessed by the anima or animus, it seems as ourselves are having such thoughts and feelings. The ego identifies with them to the point where it is unable to detach itself and see them for what they are. The dance between anima and animus is indispensable for individuation. So just as Jung describes the anima as the archetype of life, he calls the animus the archetype of meaning. The anima gives birth to the images of the psyche. It brings them to life from the unconscious, while the animus gives the meaning in consciousness in the outer world. The confrontation with the unconscious can be seen as an active act of meditation to reflect upon, which has a healing effect. We spend much of our lives searching outside ourselves for connection, for recognition, for wholeness. We long for that one person who will complete us. Who will see us? Who will finally make us feel safe, or alive, or misunderstood? But Jung gently turns our gaze inward. He tells us the real union you seek is not with another, it is with yourself. The anima and animus are not there to project outward forever. They are sacred invitations to reclaim what you have forgotten, to become what you are always meant to be. Jung called this process the inner marriage between anima and animus. It is the moment when the masculine and feminine energies begin listening to each other. This union creates something powerful, not perfection, but integration. We find that thoughts, feelings, affects our lives in us, which we would never have believed possible. Naturally, possibilities of this sort seem utterly fantastic to anyone who has not experienced them himself, for a normal person knows what he thinks. Such a childish attitude on the part of a normal person is simply the rule, so that no one without experience in this field can be expected to understand the real nature of anima and animus. With these reflections, one gets into an entirely new world of psychological experience, provided, of course, that one succeeds in realizing it in practice. Those who do succeed can hardly fail to be impressed by all that the ego does not know and never has known. This increase in self-knowledge is still very rare nowadays, and is usually paid for in advance with a neurosis, if not with something worse, writes Jung. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I am Fedrayani, and stay connected until the next episode.